Hey guys, I'm Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist here in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and today wanted to make a really important video for you that explains some of the most common options when it comes to getting a second passport quickly, talk about the pros and cons of each option, which one you should choose, and throw a little twist into the mix. Now, before we get started, if you're interested in getting a second passport, if you're interested in learning about all the options, definitely subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. We have lots of different videos, and you can also go to nomadcapitalist.com if you're trying to figure out how to do this for yourself and you want to get it done. Now, citizenship by investment, we have lots of videos on it here if you want to learn what it's about. Basically, this is a way that you can get a second citizenship in anywhere from 1 to 2 months, 4 or 5 months, in some of the most extreme examples, it takes a little bit over a year. But these are passports where you make an investment and you get a passport. Traditionally, people look at the Caribbean programs. I think that for most Westerners, who are the biggest audience on our channel, the Caribbean programs make the most sense. If you are a US citizen or an EU citizen or Australian citizen, Canadian, whatever, chances are that part of your motivation for having a second passport is an insurance policy against these more taxing, more invasive governments in the West, and going to the EU isn't going to be as interesting for you. So I look at a lot of the countries in the Caribbean, and what do those countries in the Caribbean do? They have programs where, on the fast track option, you can do 1 or 2 months. Some of them take 4 or 5 months. You can either make a donation in most cases, which ranges from $100 up to right now about $200,000 for a single person. Prices in the Caribbean have been going down. You can buy real estate, what they call quote unquote approved real estate on the islands. This is specific real estate that's been built by specific investors that's been approved for citizenship and for economic citizens. And there are other options coming up. I've been saying this for years, that the citizenship by investment business is going to become more niche, and there are going to be a lot more options. So if you go to Turkey, you can hire 100 people. If you go to some other countries, you can put money in the bank. You can put money in the central bank, in government bonds. There are various different programs. For the purposes of this video, we're going to talk about the primary options, which are a donation versus some kind of actual investment. And the wrinkle that I want to throw into this is that what a lot of people who are looking to get a second passport quickly do is they look at the most common options that are the most commonly marketed by all the big firms that sell passports as a commodity. What most people don't understand is there are countries, I was just in one a couple weeks ago, where it's in the Constitution that if you do X, Y, or Z, you can get a passport very quickly. But it's never been marketed. In the case of this country, I don't think a single person has actually got one. I was trying to find a lawyer who had experience or who knew of someone who actually got one. It's been so poorly marketed. It's in the Constitution. It's been signed off by the Parliament or the legislature, and yet nobody's done it. Not a single person has gone through because nobody really has ever heard about it. So before you go to the Caribbean and you say, hey, I'm gonna donate 100,000, 125, 150, 200, or I'm going to buy this real estate, it's important to understand all of your options. That's the wrinkle that nobody thinks about. If you go to one of the big firms, and I have friends at several of them, just met one of the guys a couple weeks ago. He's a big fan of Nomad Capitalist, but they only work with a certain number of passports. And if the passport you want isn't on the list of things that they're authorized to sell, then they don't recommend it. And so there's kind of an interest for them to only recommend the most common ones, where there's a common procedure and it just works. What I try and do as someone who travels around the world and tries to do this stuff personally, is figure out what are the unique citizenship programs. And there are options where you can go and invest, $200,000, $300,000 in any real estate of your choice, and in 1 month, 2 months, 12 months in some cases, get a second passport from that country. In some cases in the Constitution, in some cases it's kind of like the Austrian program that's often spoke about, where the president or the parliament or somebody comes in and says, okay, we like you because you're from the United States, and we're going to sign off and make you a citizen. So there are programs that do that, where you can actually go and make real investments. So when you look at citizenship by investment in, again, the Caribbean, and you say, hey, I can donate this amount of money, this low six-figure amount of money, never to be seen again, plus pay the legal fees. Or I can buy this real estate over here that's really not that interesting, it's not that nice, it seems overpriced. It's important to consider that there are other options outside of those Caribbean countries. And so that for me is the real important point. Now, if you want to go to the Caribbean, if you just say, you know what, I just want the most common program, I generally advise people make the donation, take the $100,000, take the 150, whatever it is, just be done with it. The challenge in the Caribbean is only one of the 5 citizenship by investment programs has a tax-free living environment. So these citizenship by investment programs are marketed as, hey, you can not pay any tax on your worldwide income. Well, yeah, if you don't live there. Only St. Kitts and Nevis actually has no income tax. All the other islands have income tax, and some of it's relatively high. So if you want to go and live in, Dominica full time, then chances are you're going to pay something on your income. People can say you can get away with it, but by not doing it, but that's not really the point. So St. Kitts and Nevis to me is really the only country where I feel totally safe that pretty much everybody who earns an income, again, check your tax advisor, but pretty much everybody shouldn't be paying because there is no income tax. All the other countries, there may be some cases, maybe in all cases, and for some islands, where you're going to have to pay if you live there. So these passports, these CBI passports in the Caribbean are good in that if you don't live there, the way that 99% of people don't live there, you can just travel on them and then you have no obligations. Same as if you got an Irish passport from your grandfather, never lived in Ireland, you pretty much likely wouldn't be Irish tax resident. So, the idea that you're going to buy real estate, which is quote unquote approved, which means it's overpriced. Everyone who goes down there says they're very underwhelmed by what you pay $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 for. Are you really going to live there? A lot of this real estate now, it's become so expensive and so bid up, you don't even get an apartment. You get like a timeshare in a hotel room for your $400,000, for example. So, okay, that may not be a tax issue, but you really want to spend $400,000 for a timeshare. I mean, you wouldn't go to Las Vegas and pay $25,000 for a timeshare that you got, free phantom tickets for. But you're going to go and pay $400,000 for, a timeshare where you get a citizenship. In my opinion, for most people, making the donation makes the most sense. Now, right now we've got cryptocurrency guys. In general, the cryptocurrency guys should probably consider the path of lowest cost. So if you're in cryptocurrency and you have $1 million in crypto and you expect that to go to 5 million in the next year, maybe you're looking at not being a US citizen anymore, maybe you're just looking for an insurance policy. Obviously taking $100,000 and donating it forever is going to be a lot more smart than even investing $300,000 in good real estate in one of those countries that I said you can do it in 6 or 12 months, let alone investing $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 in garbage real estate. So there are some times when people should just pay the donation. Cryptocurrency people are one where every dollar has this potential opportunity cost. I've had Amazon FBA guys, e-commerce guys, other people who are in business where they're just turning over their money so quickly that, $100,000, 5 years from now or 3 years from now when you can sell that real estate you had to buy for citizenship. I mean, $100,000 in 3 years for the right kind of investor or the right kind of entrepreneur, that could have been million or multi-millions of dollars, in which case paying the $100,000, even though you never get it back, somehow starts to look smart. For people who run cash flow businesses, the kind of businesses that I've often run, it probably makes more sense to go and look at one of the alternative CBI programs or one of the alternative citizenships where you go and park $300,000, maybe you even make a profit on your investment over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And you can get it back to where the passport's basically free when it all comes out in the wash, and you didn't really need that money in the meantime. So to me, if you're going to just look for the lowest cost route, hey, I want to invest my money somewhere else, I have great investments, I'm working with, whatever I'm doing in my business or my investment portfolio that's getting a good return for me, you just make the donation. If you have cash sitting around, you're running a cash flow business, you're piling up cash and you don't know what to do with it, then you start to look at some of the alternative programs. The option that I rarely recommend ever is going and buying overpriced real estate in the Caribbean. I don't have a lot of experience with some of the more unique Caribbean CBI opportunities, like St. Lucia used to have a bond program. I believe Antigua has a way you can actually invest in the country into different companies. To me, if you're going to start to do that, you could probably go and do something in the EU, and that's probably better suited for a T or A passport. So it's really a matter of donation or looking at other passports. If you want to find out more about which passport's for you, we offer some help with that at nomadcapitalist.com. But definitely think about opportunity cost when you're talking about passport, and definitely make sure you're not buying something that's just going to collapse in value over the next 3 or 5 years. Make sure that the debt isn't stacked against you if you're making any kind of investment, and make sure that you're actually using the word investment properly, which is something that you can get